viewpoint from overseas and our host Faraz Darvesh. We have multiple different topics with us on the table. First, we will discuss President Trump's withdrawal from Paris Climate Accord. Then we will discuss the unfortunate incident that happened in Kabul that resulted in the loss of innocent lives. And as usual, Afghan government has blamed the blast on Pakistan. And then we will discuss the well-known Panama case, which is taking place in Pakistan. We'll discuss the new development in JIT after Nihal Hashmi's threatening statements. And then in the end, we'll discuss how is the GDP looking, the GDP growth looking in India. I have with me Riaz Haq. Riaz, thank you so much. And then I have Ali Hassan with us after such a long time. So thank you both. Riaz, tell us, this decision of withdrawing from the climate accord in Paris, is it a wise decision?
Well, I think we need to understand the implications of this decision. To understand that, we need to put this in context a little bit. One of the things that we need to understand is that since the advent of the Industrial Revolution, energy is central to all aspects of life. It affects economy, it affects military security, it affects politics. And as you know, the West's dominance has been the result of the Industrial Revolution that first started in Britain and then spread to the rest of Europe and the United States. And they have needed lots of energy, and initially most of this was coal. Even to this day, coal is a substantial part of what provides the energy.
Yeah.
And the fossil fuels, different kinds of fossils, oil and gas. Now, because of concern with the climate change, there is a need to change the energy mix, to get away from the old fossil fuels and to move toward more renewable, cleaner forms of energy. So there's sort of an energy revolution that is going on right now. And by withdrawing from that revolution, from the Paris Accord, essentially what President Trump has done is ceded the leadership of this particular revolution to countries other than the United States.
Which is mainly Europe.
And China. China is actually very actively pursuing it. Even India is very serious about using renewable energy. So the biggest concern that people have is that this shift could actually harm the U.S. leadership in the world and could eventually lead to a situation where the United States is no longer regarded as a leader of the world.
So you're talking basically the political implications.
Huge implications.
Right.
Now, as far as the impact on environment is concerned, I think the American states, most of the Americans, especially the big ones that use a lot of energy like California and New York and Massachusetts, will continue to pursue the clean energy solutions. I think most of the major cities, the mayors have already announced that they're unhappy with what Mr. Trump has done, and they will continue to pursue their renewable energy push. So I think in reality, Americans will be involved. The problem is that on the international fora, the U.S. will not be represented when there is discussion.
So in a way, from a bigger perspective, you're saying it wasn't really a wise decision.
Well, absolutely not.
Right.
I think it could affect U.S. leadership in the future.
Samantar, how do you see this new development?
Yeah. So there is nothing unexpected for us. This was one of the campaign promises that Trump made. So it is not unexpected that under the Trump administration, the U.S. wants to pull out of the Paris Accord. But you must understand what is going on as far as their state of mind is concerned, Trump administrations. Nobody can argue against this fact that the climate is heating up, that we are seeing, that slowly the earth is warming up and we are seeing hotter and hotter summers every year. The only problem is that people who believe that it is we, the human beings, who are contributing to this warming up of the environment, versus others who believe that this is a natural thing. The earth has gone through these cycles of ice age and warming up and ice age, and this is only a natural occurrence, and it has nothing to do with our, anything that the human beings are doing. So as Riazak said, what would happen is that there are more scientists who believe that it is because of all the pollution that we are creating, the fossil fuel that we are burning, which is increasing the carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, which is trapping the heat of the sun as it comes in,
right.
and therefore the earth is warming up. And because of that, there's also a consensus, and people and countries and entrepreneurs are developing technologies so that we will
right.
reduce our reliance on fossil fuels.
Right.
So what would happen is that without the US being in this Paris Accord, the leadership would be gone, and there would be other countries who would take the leading role, and US would be a big loser in this whole thing.
Right, so you kind of basically agreeing with what Riaz said. So let me shift gear and let me come to the Kabul blast. An unfortunate incident, loss of...
Well, let me just close on this little bit,
Okay.
discussion on climate change. I think climate change is real, it's happening, and it's due to human activity, due to carbon emissions. However, even if you completely disregard carbon emission and the human activity causing climate change, you still have to deal with the issue of clean air and clean water. And if you continue to burn dirty fuels like coal, like oil, you're going to have that problem. Besides, these are not renewable sources. We're gonna run out of them at some point in the future.
Right.
So it makes a lot of sense for us to pursue, regardless of climate change, it makes a lot of sense to pursue these other renewable technologies which are clean.
Which is already happening at the entrepreneurial level, right? I mean,
Yes.
a lot of entrepreneurs are investing
Yes,
into
yes,
this.
but I
So
think
this is-
the US
but
leadership
the leadership
was
is not
important,
on
and
board.
that's now
Yeah.
basically being
Yeah.
ceded to other
Right,
countries.
so Ali, let me shift gear over to you. Tell me, how do you see this unfortunate incident, the loss of human lives in Kabul, and again, the same rhetoric by the government in Kabul that, Pakistan is harboring all these terrorists and blah, blah, blah. How do you see this?
Yeah, this is very unfortunate that even when 40% of the Afghan territory is controlled by the Taliban, that it's anything that happens in Afghanistan, the blame is on Pakistan, that it is people who are backed by, they just say it, that it's the people who are backed by the Pakistani administration that is doing all this, but right now, nobody has claimed the responsibility of the Kabul attack on Wednesday. But this is what the Afghan government is saying, that this is the Haqqani network which is behind this, and obviously they're saying that the Haqqani network has its safe haven in Pakistan. So what can Pakistan do? Pakistan can earn the trust of the Afghan government by including them in fighting terrorism within Pakistan. So imagine Afghan military personnel working with Pakistan army in fighting against these terrorist groups in the areas which are bordering Afghanistan. That is, I think, the only way to really gain the trust.
But
of
this
the
is
Afghan government.
right. But this has happened to some extent, right? I mean, just to set the record, Afghan government says that there are independent units within ISI who are harboring and supporting these terrorist networks. They're not saying that the government or the government in Islamabad is doing that. They're saying there are groups in ISI who are backing groups like Haqqani network. This is just an allegation. First of all, I don't even understand that. How could they be so quick in blaming Pakistan on right after the attack? But anyhow, having said all of this, what I don't understand is what is the way forward? Riaz, over to you. How do you see this? I mean, this blame rhetoric has been happening since the Karzai government, and nothing good has happened since then.
Yeah, I think obviously it's very tragic,
Right.
almost 100 people dead and several hundred injured. And this obviously has to come to an end.
Right.
The Afghan government reaction is just a reflection of their anger and frustration at the way things are going. They are basically losing control. Both the Americans and the Afghan government are losing the war against the Taliban. They want the Taliban to come to the table and talk to them. And the Taliban are saying, no, we don't want to talk to you. They don't see the need. The Taliban think that they're winning, that the Americans and the Afghans are losing, so why should they talk? So I think the way forward is really that, I think that by sending more troops, the United States will simply prolong this war a little more. In the end, I don't see any prospect of either the Americans or the Afghan government being able to defeat the Taliban.
So, what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting a dialogue with the Afghan Taliban?
On their terms.
On whose terms?
On the Taliban terms. Because eventually, it's like Vietnam. In Vietnam, the US kept talking about Vietnamization, they kept blaming, Laos, they kept blaming Cambodia, they blamed everybody that they're responsible for this. And look what happened in the end. They lost the war and they had to leave. So I think it's time, it's been 16 years now, they need to acknowledge the truth, they need to see the reality, and they need to figure out how they can basically allow the Taliban to be a part of the government, or be the government without making any preconditions on them.
Right, but there are groups within even Taliban, right? Some are ready to talk to Kabul, some are not ready to talk to Kabul, right? And then there is an ISIS element within Afghan Taliban. So I mean, this whole thing is out of
it's very
control,
difficult.
right?
I agree. It's not. There's no one clear leader that's going to emerge out of this. So I think this instability is going to continue.
Right.
The problem is with the United States, I'm speaking now from the American point of view, is how many more lives are we going to allow to be lost? How much more money are you going to pump in? How much effort U.S. is going to put into this thing? U.S. needs to acknowledge that this is over now.
Right. And do you agree with Ali's Samantar's approach? What he's saying is, joint operation of Pakistan Army and Afghan Army.
Well, it makes no sense. Pakistan is not going to go, kill these people with the help of the Afghan military and the Afghan intelligence, which is also aiding and abetting people who carry out terrorist attacks in Pakistan.
Like, for example, you mean?
Well, the NDS has been, it's well known now, the NDS has been helping the Pakistani Taliban. There's actually plenty of evidence to show that.
Samantar, what do you have to say on what Riyad just said?
Yeah, I don't think that this is going to happen. Vietnam was something different. This is Afghanistan. It's a completely different ballgame. It is not going to happen. Riyad may think and desire and wish, all he wants, that the Taliban would once again be ruling Afghanistan. This is now how this would happen. The best I can see is some kind of negotiation, because in the urban centers of Afghanistan there is opposition to Taliban. In the rural areas, many areas, especially the ones that are bordering Pakistan, yes, Taliban have some sympathy among the general population. So there can be probably some way to rule that country with different, Taliban controlling areas and other people, other parties controlling other areas. But I don't think that even Taliban would agree to that, so I agree.
So, what is your solution? Do you agree with Riyad's solution?
What is his solution?
His solution is to engage, have dialogue, peace dialogue with the Afghan Taliban. He's not saying this, just give him the power in Kabul. He's saying have dialogue with Afghan Taliban, make them part of the system, right, Riyad? This is what you're saying.
Well, this is what Americans did with the Vietnamese.
Right.
Yeah,
what happened was, even though it was an American loss, but it was a negotiated loss. They actually met in Hanoi, they worked out an agreement, and then the Americans basically came up and they left.
Samantar.
No, this is not going to happen because, Taliban, you don't even know how radicalized kind of government they are going to form. So, and the world has, no appetite for this kind of religious, group of people. So this is not going to happen. The West will not negotiate with them, and at the same time, Taliban may believe that they are going to control the whole country. They are not going to come to the negotiation table. So I think that this would just drag on. This conflict would drag on.
So the allegation, Samanta, the government in Kabul is making that Pakistan is backing this group. Do you see that there is a truth to it?
Well, since I'm not there, I cannot say, but I think that for Pakistan to show its sincerity and, transparent operation against all kind of religious groups in the area bordering Afghanistan, the only way to go forward is to have some kind of a joint mission, and so that Afghanistan government, Afghanistan army knows that yes, there's no sympathy in Pakistan army, nothing in ISI, nothing in any group.
Yes.
Kind of people.
Usually the negotiated settlements happen in situations where there's a stalemate, where neither side has has any hope of winning. I don't think the stalemate is there. I don't think it will be there.
Okay.
So without that, there's not going to be any serious negotiation where either side is willing to make concessions to the other.
Then the conflict will just drag on, and
We
we
just
will
drag on until the Americans decide we've had enough, and they'll just leave.
and then what?
And then there's going to be, basically the Taliban will take over because they are the only powerful force in
That's
that
it.
region.
Well, that's a pretty big claim that you're saying. Kabul government will not be able to hold
It's
as soon as
unfortunate.
American
I think they're going to fall very, very quickly.
Samantha, do you agree with this? He's Riaz is saying. Go
Yes,
ahead.
on their own, this kind of alliance that has been going on in Afghanistan, which is basically against Taliban, on its own it will not hold. But with the U.S. backing, with the other countries too, for example, India and also China in the fray, they can hold onto the power, and I think that's how it would continue.
Let's shift over to Pakistan and let's discuss the Panama case development and how is the GIT handling it. And then recently we saw Nihal Hashmi, a political leader of the party in power of Mr. Nawaz Sharif. He gave pretty threatening statements, and then afterwards the judges in the GIT countered it and said that government is now acting as a Sicilian mafia. So first, Samantha, give me your views. How do you see this whole Nihal Hashmi episode, and then how GIT is handling it?
Yeah, I don't think that this was, decided beforehand that Nihal Hashmi would make these kind of comments and threaten people who are doing this investigation against Nawaz Sharif and in the Panama case. So I think that he was just speaking on his own, whereas other people are saying that this was all premeditated, that he was supposed to give such a speech which will threaten people, but at the same time obtain resignation from him, and everything would look like, and so make the threat, but still, show to the world that no, we are against any kind of, this kind of threatening posture, and therefore remove him. So, but I don't think that's the case. I think that the way these political parties operate, the people are on their own. He just made his statement, his speech, and somehow that got viral, and that went against Nawaz Sharif.
So you're saying it wasn't scripted?
Excuse me?
You're saying it wasn't scripted?
Yeah, the whole thing was not scripted. Obviously, he's probably prepared for his speech, So that
Right. But how do you see the judges in the GIT now passing the comment that the PMLN, the party in power, is acting as a Sicilian mafia?
Yeah, so that's exactly what they said, and PMLN to clear its position, it asked for his resignation, and this guy resigned. So they are saying that no, we're nothing like Sicilian mafia. This guy acted on his own, and we have punished him. We have removed him.
Okay, Riaz, over to you on this issue.
Yeah, I think the the reality is that this is the first time in Pakistan's history when a sitting government is being investigated and being held accountable by the bureaucracy and the judiciary. This has never happened before.
It's unprecedented.
Unprecedented. And they're not happy about it. I mean, this is, they
Who
feel,
is not happy about it?
Nawaz Sharif is not happy,
Okay.
his party is not happy, people who are in the government, the politicians, the ruling party politicians, they're unhappy about it. And I think within their own circles, when they talk, they probably talk about these things. They say that how dare these guys, ask us these questions, how dare they bring us in front of a JIT, who are they? Basically a sort of a very, attitude of contempt toward them. The difference is that Nihal Hashmi actually said the things that they obviously talk, I think they talk about privately. He just said it out in front of a camera.
But
he didn't realize that he was going to be caught on camera
Right.
and get in trouble for it. But in fact, this reflects what they're thinking right now within the government.
You mean the mindset?
Circles. Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And I think that they probably talk about
But
it.
you agree with Ali that with someone thought that it wasn't scripted.
Well, I don't know what that means. I mean, obviously, the way that he delivered the speech, it seemed like he had the words,
Right, but
There was no ums and ahs, he was speaking very
No,
fluently.
what he's saying, it wasn't by design that PMLN conspired.
I don't think the government
and
asked him to
decided-
do it. I don't think
Right.
Nawaz Sharif, I don't think Nawaz Sharif asked him to do it. It's just that, government ministers sometime, Nawaz Sharif's
Right.
people, end up saying things that they're thinking about
You
out
don't see
loud.
any conspiracy behind this.
I don't think there's any conspiracy behind it.
Right.
But I think it does show the frustration, the anger, that this is happening right now.
So in a way, at large, what you're saying is a positive development.
Oh, absolutely. I think if you look at, and this is happening in other countries too, there's a couple of examples. Recently, the South Korean President Park, was accused of corruption. She was prosecuted and she's now in jail. Similar thing is happening in Brazil. The Brazil president, Michel Temer, and some of his ministers are accused of corruption, and the prosecutors and the police are pursuing them. So I think these are things that every democracy, democracy just doesn't mean simply having elections and putting somebody in power with the election. It is also holding them accountable after they've been elected.
Right. So let me move to the last topic in the interest of time. Riaz, you suggested a good topic. I guess, I would like to get some data from you that India's GDP growth is now slowing down. Tell us, how is it happening and what are the reasons?
Yeah, actually it has slowed down substantially. It went down from like 7.1% to 6.1% in the last quarter.
So it's a 1% drop.
From January to March quarter, the first quarter of this year, which is the last quarter of the last fiscal year. And it seems that there's also other things that are happening. The other thing that is happening is that Indian banks are carrying a lot of bad loans, and they have cut back on lending. So the credit growth rate in India is the lowest it's been in 60 years. It's only about 5% now, which is 6-decade low at this time.
Right.
So all of this is impacting growth. The other thing that happened not too long ago, at the end of the last year, which probably impacted the early part of this year as well, is the demonetization, where a large amount of cash was taken out of the economy, and Indian economy being mostly a cash-based economy, that was impacted by that demonetization.
Yeah, but Modi's government is gaining. They just won the UP election. So, I mean, if the economic situation is declining, then how are they able to win the elections?
I think they're using other, like cow protection, for example.
Oh, you mean extremism?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They're appealing to the raw emotions of the people, the Hindu nationalists, and telling them, hey guys, Hinduism is under threat. These other people are doing this to the cows, let's protect them.
Okay, so this is the agenda, this is
Absolutely.
their lollipop that they're giving out to win the election.
Yeah.
Samantar, how do you see this? You just heard Riaz, what he just said about India's GDP growth is slowing down, and tell us your views.
Yeah, so the economy is not slowing down drastically in India. I mean, from 7.1 to 6.9, how big is that?
6.1.
He said 6.1. He's saying 7.1 last quarter to 6.1 this quarter was Riaz presented.
Okay, so I thought it was 6 point something. But anyways,
So yes, it is 6.1. 7.1 to 6.1 now.
okay,
1% drop.
Yeah, 1% drop. So, China's, in 2014, China was doing close to 8, 7.8. They have also come down to 6.9, but they're still growing. And similarly, India, whereas for one quarter you are quoting this figure of, decrease, they are still growing and really doing substantially better than the neighboring country, which is, Pakistan. So I don't see a big issue here. So this is, for one time they have slipped. Maybe next quarter they will catch up and will do better.
Okay, Riaz, you
Yeah, I think the issue is not where 6.1 is great. I think the issue is they're actually having substantial job losses as well. For example, last week in our discussion we talked about them losing 200,000 tech jobs a year over the next 3 years.
And what is the cause of this?
A part of it is the H-1B, restrictions in the United States. They're not able to, hire as many people. The second cause is the technology is changing and they don't have the skills to deal with the new technology. So out of 3 million jobs that they have in the tech sector, if you look at these 600,000 over the next 3 years, that's like 20% of the tech sector job. That's pretty substantial.
Okay.
So there are other factors too.
Okay, Samantha, you want to respond to this?
No, I mean, I don't have the figures to tell you what part of the total GDP is this, this tech sector, and especially the work that is being done by the, people in India coming from other countries, and also, H-1B people being employed here and sending the money back there. So without that, I cannot really.
Yeah, I think the important issue is job losses. When you have the growth rate come down from 7.1 to 6.1%, it means they're going to be creating fewer jobs. And that means, they're like, they say something like, 12 million people are joining Indian workforce. And that's a lot of people. So if they don't find the job, that can cause problems.
Samantha, closing
And the
remarks.
effect will not be immediately felt, it'll be felt over time.
Samantha.
It is not only because GDP is not only jobs, it's basically everything that you are producing. So we have to look at each sector about where this decline in growth is. Is it in agriculture? How much a decline in agriculture? How much in manufacturing? How much in, this labor, getting money from other sources? So I don't have that data.
But there is a relationship between the growth rate and the job creation. So lower growth rate means fewer job creation.
Okay, so I don't think we can solve it here, but let's have a continuous discussion on this in the upcoming days. Audience, thank you for watching Viewpoint from Overseas. We'll be back next week. Goodbye.